Salutations, boy, girls, and kiddos of all ages. Welcome to another episode of Posing Action Figures with Toy the Poser. I am your host, Toy the Poser. And if you're the type of person that likes your comic book stories with a whole lot of superpowers and love triangles, then this video is for you. But of course, you must be warned. This is not your average action figure review channel. Just a simple showcasing of all the things I like to collect in the form of action figures of toys, of course. So if you think that I'm going to complain about things like if the toy has exposed pegless, joints or anything of that nature, or chip paints or anything like that, well, you've come to the wrong place, buddy, because I think Shartimus Prime lives that way. That was a joke. But I'll just get behind the camera and go into giant mode so we can get on with the video. Whoop! Okay, and as you can see on the rotating rotator, I don't have a nickname for the rotating base, but anyway, the figure in question today will be the Marvel Legends series X-Men 97. I guess the Goblin Queen. And I guess the quick thing about that is that the X-Men animated series, I don't know if we can call it a reboot or continuance from 97. Did a, what do you want to call it, an extension or more episodes? I don't know, but they did a newer version of it, and as of recently, which I think back in this is a year before, so last year, 2024, they came back out with more episodes of X-Men called the X-Men 97, and and you I guess the best thing to do is say go watch it if you don't know about it. But we're gonna talk about the Goblin Queen in this situation, who I don't think was, to be completely honest with you, because it was on I think Disney Plus or something like that, I didn't actually get to watch it, so I only seen like highlights of it. So I don't have Disney Plus, guys, so sorry about that. So that's why I can't really talk much about the actual cartoon or animation, or what do you want to call it these days. All right, so I guess the best thing in this situation is to say, as you can see the figure, and as you can see the back of the package, kind of sort of. Here, I'll stop the rotating rotator, and we'll just move the camera up and down. All right, as you can see, she comes with two little fists, a baby. I guess we'll figure out who that baby is. If you know, you know. But the package, of course, is cracked and damaged. Good thing I'm not an in the box package person, so I throw my packages away. Top of the package, you have all the other figures in this wave, and these were the only two that I cared about because I have Jean Grey and a Nightcrawler, and now I got another Nightcrawler that I really didn't want, but we'll talk about that in a later video. A Magneto and a Cyclops. So if I'm not mistaken, I don't think they ever made another Goblin Queen, or, well, we'll talk about the history of it later, but this is the first Executioner that they ever made, and we'll talk about him in a later video, but right now we're talking about her. All right, and for those type of people that like to see things like this in the barcode and all of that jazz. I don't know why, but there you go. I hope this helps. All right, so we're just going to, all right, adjust it from there. Because, and of course, this is where the bad magic trick comes in at, and my horrible editing skills, of course. But we're gonna magical poof her out of this back, so we can get into the character. So magical poof, and yes, just like that, she's out of package, and no weirdos. I wasn't gonna drop the baby. So speaking of baby, this is a baby, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna find out who it is when we do a brief little origin story and history about the Goblin Queen. So, like I said, if you know, let's see if I'm right. Correct me if I'm wrong. All right, when I let you know. However, just to say that this little model baby is something that's been used a couple of times. So yeah. So this is not the first time this little guy or this mold of this little guy has been used. Okay, so to the side we go with the baby, and of course a left fist and a right fist, or a right and left, or how we're saying it. It's something that's once again always been a mold of and has been used. Power effects, which once again, nothing new here. If you've been collecting Marvel Legends stuff like that, these little power effects for the hands, which aren't really that good, or I guess it all depends on how well you're good at posing them on there and making them, how good you make them look on the figure. All right, so oh well. But other than that, we have the Goblin Queen, and with the hard plastic cape. And yes, I do not a fan of, I guess it works when it needs to work, but the hard plastic capes now, right at the moment, I'm really not digging them, because like I said, I've seen a figure with a cloth wire cape and fell in love with that. And then on top of that, when I pulled out some of my old Toy Biz figures with the softer rubber-ish, or more, softer plastic. Was it plastic or rubber? I don't know what they use for those things, but yeah, though, like I said, when they use hair, like you see how hard and rigid. Well, of course you wouldn't know, you can't feel it, but how hard and rigid it is, and all of that, it was. Yeah, I'm like, why didn't they just make hair and capes and things like that? No, because they're separate pieces. I don't know if you can tell. All right, because they're actually two separate pieces. So they can just make this and the hair and capes and stuff in rubber, and have a face and all that in this hard plastic or whatever they use. And next thing you know, you can let these characters move their heads back and forth. Her head is not on the joint. I think it's on the ball peg thing. Yeah, didn't mean to do that, but anyway, I actually like this when they do that, or when they're able to do that. The although the cape is two separate pieces, it can't come off unless you just rip it off right there. But I'm not in the mood for that. I'm not gonna do that. And we're gonna. Speaking of which, I usually say, make sure you heat your figures up, so they'll be easier to move around and pose. But she is actually quite movable without without any heat or anything. So when I say I put them in a cold pose so we can, you know, talk more about them, she's actually doing a pretty good job of posing. Okay. But now let's see how well of a pose, or what kind of pose can I put in. All right, a cold pose, I should say. But and let's see how many accessories I can use. Okay. We're gonna let's see here. We're gonna let it look like that and do that. Okay. Let's move some things. Get my hand up in here. So it kind of cold. And you know what? Because of, I'm trying to put, well, it pegs in, but it doesn't reach it all the way. You know. So, okay, there we go. Okay, we gotta, then, can she hold the baby? Let's hold the baby. Oh, let's see how well can she hold the baby. This is gonna be the longest part of the video, which I don't want that to be that to be a thing. How do people hold babies? I don't know. Hey, okay. Now we can put some hand, you know, power effects on the hand. However that's supposed to work. Like I said, there she goes. All right. Now let's, oops. I did drop the baby this time. Okay. Come on. Hey. I mean, she's on her hand does move back and forth, but it doesn't seem to want to go up that far. But there we go. Wow. Now we just need to get him in there snugly. Okay. How was that? Let's put that on the base like that and see how we go. Okay, so let's get a base and let's get the talking and bring in the monitor and get some history about the Goblin Queen. And lucky me, because the flight stand that I had sucked and wasn't working well with this, she had peg holes at the bottom of her feet, so I pegged in some action figure stands and they seem to do the trick quite well. And I had a pretty difficult time with that hard cape, all right, and hair. So, but here she is, Goblin Queen. And who is the Goblin Queen? Well, let's bring in the monitor and see. Created by Chris Claremont and Paul Smith, and first appearing in the Uncanny X-Men 168. The origin of the Goblin Queen starts off like this, with this guy, Mr. Sinister, had a pretty much an idea that if he took two very strong super powered beings and put them together, they could possibly make something that will pretty much destroy this guy, Apocalypse. But they're both villains, so don't know why he so hell-bent on beating Apocalypse. But anyway, with the DNA of a very powerful telepath, in X-Men, the X-Men mutant telepath Jean Grey, her DNA, he created a clone of her named Madeline Pryor. But before all that, Jean Grey had a love interest with her teammate and team leader, Scott Summers. Since we're on the first name basis right now, let's do this. Let's try that. All right. So, fast forward. All right. Yes, Jean and Scott were a pretty cute couple. Okay, but that didn't last long because Jean Grey ended up being a host and getting possessed, or however you want to look at it, by the Phoenix Force. And because she was as the Phoenix, Jean Grey was such a threat to herself and the humanity, the world, or whatever, she had to die. Okay, so she dies, and Scott Summers here, he gets heartbroken from that and decides to leave the X-Men, quit the team, and then along comes Nathaniel Exis. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but yeah. Nathaniel Exis, well, actually, that was his clone. This is Dr. Nathaniel Essex. Essex. Anyway, okay, but not to get too much into the weed of things, this guy made 3 clones of himself, and one of those clones went by the name of the clone of Diamonds, Mr. Sinister. So we can just start calling him Sinister. We don't have to go off original name basis right here. Okay, so to prevent confusion, Mr. Sinister here took the DNA of Jean Grey, who is now presumably dead because she was possessed by a big fiery force called the Phoenix, and with that DNA he cloned her and made Madeline Pryor, a clone of Jean Grey. And he cloned Madeline Pryor, he cloned Jean Grey to make Madeline Pryor, all for the sole purpose to meet, so she can meet this guy, Scott Summers. Well, technically I don't think it was for the sole purpose to meet Scott Summers. I think Mr. Sinister cloned Jean Grey and made Madeline Pryor because he thought this person was going to possess the same powers and power abilities as this person. But it really didn't matter because Scott and Madeline did meet, fall in love, and get married. And in that marriage, Madeline gets pregnant, all right, and gives birth to a new bouncing baby boy named Nathaniel. No, I'm just kidding. The baby's name is... You know what? I'm not going to tell you what the baby's name is. Let's see who can find out. Or who's the first one to say in the comments section below. Just to get you guys involved. All right? Just to see who's listening, paying attention, whatever. Who is this glowing-eyed little bundle of joy? Okay, so anyway, all right, she had a baby. Scott Summers and Madeline Pryor had a baby. And yeah, tell me who that baby is and who that baby becomes. Moving on, Jean Grey comes back to life. Apparently through the help of the Phoenix Force, but she comes back and joins the land of the living, which pretty much made Scott Summers leave his wife Madeline and Yeah, deadbeat dad style. Well, that wasn't cool. So Madeline Pryor, um, like a woman scorned, got mad and realized that she had powers and became the Goblin Queen. Oh, and with those powers are, and although, even though Madeline is the Goblin Queen, is a clone of Jean Grey, she has pretty much all of Jean Grey's powers, or at least some of them. Well, she's at least a telepath, like telepath, and she can use telekinesis. So with the telepathic powers, she can reality warp things, or people, or the reality of what people see in their minds, at least, because she can read and manipulate people's minds. She has a telepathic cloak, which means she can mask her presence from being detected. She can make a psionic shield to protect herself. Telepathic camouflage, mind control, mind possession, mind alteration, telepathic illusion, mental paralysis, mental amnesia, psionic blast, mind transfer, mental detection, induced pain, astral projection, astral teleportation, psionic siphoning, which means that she can basically siphon off the psychic energies from other psionic mutants. And how many psionic mutants are there? Who is a psionic mutant? Anyway, when she bargained with the demon Sim for power, Madeline was bestowed demonic abilities by the demon's touch, granting her powerful dark magic on top of her psychic abilities. Like sorcery, she can cast wide variety of simple and complex spells. And she has the ability to heal herself and other people. So there you go. All right. And with that being said, whoop, whoop. All right. It's basically size comparison time. And as you can see, she wear heels, which means that she can't stand up on her own. However, that hard cape is basically making it a bit of a stance for her. So we're gonna see how long that holds up as we bring in our first person to measure up how she measure up against, which is our representative of the 1/18th scale, and that representative is Viacom's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Michelangelo. That's standing in at a whopping 4 inches. All right. And next, representing our 1/12th scale, we have Stan the Man, my main man, standing in at an average 6 inches, which is your average 1/12th scale. So last but not least, bringing in and representing the 1/10th scale is our man, McFarlane Toys, Bruce Wayne, Batman. All right, custom version. All right, who's standing in at a average of 7 inches tall. So, which basically means our lady on display is approximately all right, that is coming in at 6 1/4, right above the hairline. I think right at her hairline, she's 6 inches, but above that by the hair, she's like 6 1/4 or 3/8 or whatever. All right, so with that being said, all right, everybody can go back to their places now. Whoop. Yes, she fell. Whoop. Whoop. And there you have it. Thank you, my lady. You may leave if you please. Whoop. And that's it. So until the next video, guys. See you soon. Ta-ta for now.